So research suggests that the specific verbs you choose when someone asks you what is next for you, those words can actually predict your likelihood of achieving your goals.
Oh, wow. Real?
Yeah, it is a pretty striking concept. I mean, you were just standing there, coffee in hand, trying to articulate your future, and the linguistic structures you default to are, well, they're silently broadcasting your trajectory.
And maybe even determining it, right?
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, our mission on this deep dive is to examine a curated curriculum that is ostensibly designed to teach non-native speakers how to express future goals, dreams, and, aspirations in conversational English.
Right. It looks like a standard language lesson on the surface.
It really does. But when you look closely at the exact phrases, the linguistic progression, and the framing recommended in this text, it stops looking like a simple language lesson. It starts looking like a masterclass in behavioral psychology.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is that the source material entirely bypasses the traditional dry mechanics of grammar.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. Instead, it acts as this highly structured psycholinguistic guide. It moves dynamically through these different spheres of human ambition.
From the professional to the exploratory to the deeply internal.
Exactly. And in doing so, it reveals a really profound mechanism. The words we choose to speak about our future, they don't merely describe our reality. They actively construct our mindset in real time.
I love that. And that distinction, between describing and constructing, that is exactly where we need to start.
Mhm.
Because before we can understand the broader psychological impact of this curriculum, we have to look at the foundational linguistic tools it provides.
The basic building blocks.
Right. The text introduces a triad of verbs for stating basic intentions, and those are want, plan, and hope.
Simple enough.
Super simple. It gives very straightforward examples, things like, I want to improve my English, or I plan to learn a new skill next year.
Right.
And then transitioning into career ambitions with, I hope to get a better job.
Yeah.
At first glance, a reader might gloss over these as just basic synonyms for desire.
Yeah. But treating them as synonyms would be a massive mistake. From a behavioral standpoint, these three verbs represent entirely different neurological states.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, the curriculum is subtly walking the speaker through an escalation of executive function. When you use the phrase, I want to, as in, I want to start my own business, you are expressing raw desire.
Just pure want.
Exactly. That is dopamine. It is the reward center of the brain lighting up with a vision of this ideal future. But desire alone, it carries zero commitment to action.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this progression, like the mechanics of a manual transmission.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, saying I want is essentially just turning the ignition. I mean, the engine is running, right? The potential is definitely there, but the car is still in neutral.
You aren't actually moving anywhere.
Exactly. You were just sitting in the driveway. Then the text shifts the speaker into the phrase, I plan to, like I plan to learn a new skill next year.
Right.
Neurologically, that feels like shifting into first gear and, finally engaging the transmission.
Because it requires the prefrontal cortex to sip in. A plan inherently implies a timeline, a sequence of events, and, well, a commitment of resources.
It's concrete.
Very. You are moving from the passive experience of a dopamine hit to the active engagement of cognitive load. By introducing I plan to into your conversational repertoire, you signal to your listener that you have moved beyond daydreaming.
Right. You are putting the car in drive. But the curriculum doesn't stop at planning. It introduces hope too.
Yes.
The example given is, I hope to get a better job. Going back to the driving analogy, if want is the ignition and plan is the transmission, hope is like turning on the headlights to illuminate the horizon.
That is a great way to put it.
It is acknowledging that while you are steering the car and, pressing the gas, there are elements of the terrain that are totally outside of your complete control.
And that introduces a crucial element of psychological resilience. If you only ever use the word plan, you actually create a brittle mindset.
How do you mean brittle?
Well, you might say, I plan to get the CEO position by next year. But if macroeconomic factors prevent that, the plan fails, right?
And then you crash.
Exactly, and cognitive dissonance sets in. But by teaching the speaker to blend plan for actionable steps, like learning a skill, with hope for broader outcomes, like getting a better job, the curriculum creates a highly adaptive conversational stance.
It sounds ambitious but grounded.
Yes, ambitious but grounded. That is exactly it.
And that grounded ambition is incredibly useful when talking about concrete things like climbing the corporate ladder. But the source material, it doesn't confine this linguistic framework to just professional development.
No, it goes much wider.
Yeah. Once the foundation of career goals is established, the curriculum pivots. It starts applying these same mechanical verbs to our external experiences, specifically travel,
Travel is a great pivot,
and then it immediately pairs that external travel with internal development.
right? It broadens the horizon of what qualifies as a valid ambition. The text introduces phrases like, I want to visit different countries, and I am planning a trip next summer, which is a very standard, universally understood conversational anchor.
Oh, for sure. People love talking about travel.
They do. It's safe.
But then it takes a fascinating turn. It juxtaposes those physical journeys with statements of personal growth. It offers phrases like, I want to become more confident and I plan to develop better habits.
Hmm.
Now, I have to push back on this pairing just a little bit because it feels a bit jarring.
In what sense?
Well, think about the cognitive load of those two goals. I plan to take a trip next summer is a logistical puzzle. You save money, you book a flight, you pack a bag. It is highly tangible.
Sure.
But I want to become more confident. That is a lifelong, invisible, deeply abstract identity shift. How does the simple syntax provided in this source handle the sheer intimidating weight of changing your entire personality compared to just, booking a vacation to Spain?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we can really see the genius in how the curriculum structures this conversational flow. By intentionally forcing these abstract internal changes into the exact same linguistic syntax as a summer vacation, it shrinks the cognitive load of the ambition.
Oh, wow. It democratizes the goals.
It democratizes them, exactly. It strips away the intimidation factor.
Yeah, because if you view becoming confident as this monumental psychological mountain, you're likely never going to talk about it, let alone actually attempt it.
Precisely. But by training the speaker to say, I plan to develop better habits, with the exact same casual cadence as I plan to visit Spain, the curriculum basically neutralizes the amygdala's threat response to massive personal change.
That is wild.
The conversational flow seamlessly links experiencing the physical world with continuous internal learning. It treats them as two sides of the exact same coin.
Which radically changes the dynamic of a casual conversation. I mean, you are no longer just exchanging itineraries. You are normalizing self-improvement as a standard conversational topic.
Which is huge.
It is. And in the natural dialogue example provided in the source, we actually see this blending happen in real time.
Yeah, the transition there is seamless.
The speakers transition effortlessly from discussing wanting to experience different cultures right into wanting to grow professionally and work on meaningful projects.
Which brings us to the underlying strategy of the entire curriculum. Up to this point, we have analyzed the specific vocabulary, the verbs of intention, and the thematic targets of those intentions.
Right, the what of the conversation.
Exactly. But the source introduces a strict governor on how these conversations must be framed. It places a massive emphasis on the crucial role of positivity.
The curriculum insists that it is totally imperative to focus strictly on what you hope to achieve. The examples of natural dialogue in the text are just dripping with this forward-looking momentum.
They really are.
The speakers talk about desiring to work on meaningful projects, and they voice the belief that every small step today helps create a better future, focusing ultimately on, quote, helping more people.
On the surface, that might sound like a generic motivational poster.
A little cheesy, yeah?
A bit cheesy, sure.
Yeah.
But in the context of psycholinguistics, it is a highly effective conversational strategy. We have all experienced the alternative.
Oh, definitely.
The default mode of human connection, especially in casual settings, is often mutual complaining. We bond over shared grievances, the terrible traffics, the difficult boss, the state of the economy.
It is the path of least resistance. Misery loves company.
It really does. But complaining actively narrows your cognitive focus. When you complain, your brain is scanning for threats and limitations.
Right.
The source explicitly states that positive language makes conversations more inspiring, which literally changes the neurochemistry of the interaction.
It opens things up.
Exactly. When you use positive, future-oriented language, you broaden your cognitive scope. You invite the listener into a space of possibility.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text presents this dynamic not just as a way to be polite at a party, but as a self-sustaining psychological loop. The source explicitly notes that talking about future plans is a great way to stay motivated. The curriculum is revealing that speaking isn't just an outflow of information.
The act of speaking becomes the fuel for the action itself.
You are actively constructing your motivation in real time by articulating the goal to someone else. Like when you say, every small step today helps create a better future, you aren't just trying to inspire the person across the table from you.
No, not at all.
You are verbalizing a contract with yourself. You are convincing your own brain of the value of your efforts.
And we must examine the source's claim that your goals and dreams give you meaningful topics to talk about. By elevating the conversation out of the mundane and into shared aspiration, you are basically performing an act of conversational generosity.
Conversational generosity, I like that.
You are giving the listener permission to consider their own trajectory. This is why the curriculum insists on positivity.
Right.
A negatively framed goal like, I plan to quit this awful job before it kills me, it just drains the energy from the room.
It's exhausting to listen to.
Exactly. A positively framed goal like, I hope to transition into a role where I can work on meaningful projects, that invites collaboration and shared energy.
It is the difference between running away from a threat and running toward a reward. One exhausts you, the other energizes you.
Well said.
So, having mapped out the engine gears of want, plan, and hope, and having explored how to point that vehicle toward both external adventures and internal growth, and of course recognizing the fuel of positive framing, this deep dive culminates in the practical application.
Because the source does not let the reader stay in the realm of theory.
Not at all. It demands an immediate translation from passive comprehension to active output.
Which is where the rubber meets the road.
It issues a specific practice task. The challenge laid out in the text is to write or speak exactly 5 sentences about your future plans in English, covering any of the domains we have discussed.
Right.
So what does this all mean? To me, this 5-sentence challenge looks exactly like a regimen of cognitive exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy is a really apt way to look at it, because the anxiety surrounding sharing our dreams is profound.
It's huge.
When you state an ambition out loud, you make failure a public possibility.
Which is terrifying. If you only ever try to articulate your deepest ambitions when the stakes are incredibly high, like, seeing in a high-pressure job interview or trying to impress a date, your brain is going to flood with cortisol.
Oh, absolutely.
You will stumble, you will use vague language, or you will accidentally sound arrogant simply because you haven't built the neurological pathways to speak about your dreams casually.
This raises an important question. How does this specific exercise of mere repetition conquer that biological fear response?
Right. How does just saying 5 sentences help?
Well, the source explicitly states the core mechanism. It says the more you practice discussing the future, the more confident you'll become. It is relying heavily on neuroplasticity.
I think of it like paving a dirt road in your brain. The first time you say, I plan to start my own business, it is this bumpy, anxiety-inducing, unpaved path. The amygdala is firing, warning you of all the risks.
Look out, danger!
Exactly. But if you do this 5-sentence workout every single day, you are basically driving a steamroller over that path. You are laying down asphalt.
The repetition strips the terror right out of the ambition. By forcing yourself to distill massive, intimidating life changes into 5 simple, positively framed sentences, you place a boundary around the unknown.
That makes so much
You
sense.
take the formless, chaotic potential of your future, and you place it into a manageable linguistic structure. Over time, as the source promises, that structure becomes an automatic paved highway. The comfort of the syntax breeds the confidence of the delivery.
It ceases to be an event. Talking about changing your life just becomes a normal part of how you communicate. And the text closes with a philosophy that beautifully captures this dual nature of thought and action. It leaves us with a mantra to keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. And it pairs that internal mindset with the physical mandate to keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep improving.
The curriculum understands that you cannot have the internal belief without the external practice, and you cannot sustain the external practice without the internal belief. They are totally mutually reinforcing.
To summarize our deep dive today, we began by examining the foundational verbs of intention, the raw dopamine of want, the executive function of plan, and the adaptable resilience of hope.
The essential tools.
We explored how the curriculum cleverly uses the exact same linguistic syntax to democratize massive internal shifts, like building confidence, making them just as conversational as planning a trip. We uncovered the psychological strategy of positive framing, moving away from the cognitive narrowing of complaints and into the expansive loop of shared motivation. And finally, we unpacked the 5-sentence practice task as a literal form of exposure therapy, paving the neurological roads needed to speak about our ambitions without fear.
It is an incredibly sophisticated behavioral toolkit to sort of hidden within the structure of an everyday language guide.
It truly is.
Yeah.
So for you listening right now, the next time you find yourself at that family gathering or, a networking event, and someone asks you, so what is next for you? Remember that you are not just answering a question.
No, you are doing much more than that.
You are utilizing a psycholinguistic tool. You have the ability to step out of vague generalities, bypass the trap of complaining, and invite the person across from you into an inspiring, forward-moving exchange.
Which leaves us with a final lingering thought to mull over.
Ooh.
The source material definitively demonstrates how articulating our plans positively transforms our conversations with other people, turning mundane chats into shared inspiration. But consider the impact of this framework on the conversation you're having with yourself.
Oh, wow.
If you commit to consistently framing your future using these clear, confident, and positive structures out loud, do you eventually rewrite your own internal monologue? If you use this syntax to repeatedly tell the world that your dreams are tangible and planned, does the voice inside your head finally start to believe it too?
That dreaded question about your future might just be the exact opportunity you need to convince yourself of your own potential. Until next time, keep digging deeper.